Welcome to GCCars. My name is Eric and this is the 2022 Genesis GV80 Prestige. Say hello to Genesis' first SUV. This mid-size GV80 wants you to choose it over the likes of the Mercedes GLE, BMW X5 and plethora of other mid-size SUVs. Quite the ambitious goal for a brand that didn't even exist a decade ago as it is today. But we've already tested their second SUV, the GV70, and I very much like that one, so I have high expectations for this GV80. Let's get started talking about the exterior. So, the GV80, if you think this kind of looks like a Bentayga, like a Bentley Bentayga, well, you're right, because it's the exact same designer. But I think this kind of looks how the GV80, pardon me, a Bentayga should have looked. But like I said, the GV80 looks fantastic. I'm a big fan of the design and it looks way more expensive than it actually is. I think it stands out in the crowd of crossovers very nicely and has some great details that you can see in the B-roll here that just really make it a good looking car. Do I still think the GV70 pulled off the same design language a little better with a tiny bit more refinement? Yes, but overall still a big fan. But styling is very subjective, so you gotta decide for yourself if you like it. But how about we take a look at the interior? Alrighty. Genesis soft close GV80 interior, and it is very, very nice. First of all, visually, because we have this blue and this kind of beige creamish color, it looks very nice, but it also feels very nice. All the leathers and all the surfaces are soft, nice, comfy. The leathers are interestingly very smooth. Some other manufacturers have a bit more texture on their leather. It's a little rougher, but this feels very nice nonetheless, and I like it. And I think it is beautiful and some very kind of like artsy designs. The seats, very big quilting on this, like very deep quilting. It looks nice, very comfortable, heated, cool, of course, what you expect. They don't technically have a massage function, they call it stretching. So what it basically does, you can activate it and then it moves around a little and just like the lumbar goes in and out. Not like proper massaging seats, but you have like inflatable stuff in there. Still very comfy nonetheless, and it's a very nice interior. We have knurling on the indicator stalks up here, which makes just a little nicer. And then in terms of tech, of course, because it's a Genesis, it's going to have very good tech. So first of all, we have this 3D gauge cluster, which we've already had in the GV70. Admittedly, the 3D is kind of a bit of a gimmick, but it is pretty cool. So I can't show it to you on camera, obviously, because you need like 2 eyes and to be here. Anyhow, it gives you about maybe like 2/3 of an inch of kind of depth in the screen, which looks really, really nice. And of course, as always, put on the indicator and you get your blind spot right there. This car also beeps at you like a lot if you keep the engine running, which is a little annoying, gotta be honest. Very specific use case, but if you're filming, it just like always does that. Anyhow, infotainment, very fast, a lot of features, well integrated. I like it a lot. Controlled with this dial in the center stack, which is very satisfying to use. I just have a minor complaint because this is like this metal. The sun reflects on that and it just kind of like shines in your eyes. So it looks nice. It's a tiny bit of a drawback though. And then we have a touch screen with some physical controls for our HVAC. But this is really nice. This is a fantastic interior. I love being in here. Second row, let's go. But soft close. Okay, second row. Obviously, more soft close back here. And once you sit down, you notice that it is just as nice and comfy as it is up front. First of all, we have, of course, plenty of room for me. I'm 5'7", just for reference. And the seats, which are ventilated and heated on both sides, are very comfy as well. Good lateral support in case the driver is a little more sporty in their driving. And the cool thing is, electric integrated sunshades. Isn't that cool? First time we've had that in a car. You don't even need to put them up yourself. That would be like the plebs do that. The poors do that. Nah, you just do that. And even better, because you can control the second seat, actually, the passenger seat, from back here. You can just tell your driver to James, put up the shades. So, and then he can do that for you, technically. Don't think you get chauffeured in this, but you can. Of course, if you need cup holders, right here, and then you can have a bit of a cubby in here if you need to store anything sensitive. Come on, there you go. Just need a bit of force to put it back down. And no, it is very nice, but the cool thing is it gets even better. So first of all, of course, we can slide back and forth. That's pretty straightforward. That's pretty standard, right? But we can recline like quite a bit. Like, look at that. And then you just put up this, you buckle yourself up, and you're gonna be so comfy. You can literally sleep just perfectly like this. And once you wake up, you go back up, shoop. You have your mirror, just to check if your makeup's still on. And then you get, no, this is awesome. But let's quickly talk about the third row. I'm just gonna give you some B-roll and show you how to get in. So you just press this button. Oop, just press this button. There you go, slides forward, and then you can go in here. And yeah, of course, it's a mid-size SUV, so space is very limited for adults. I don't really have much leg room. I don't really have much headroom. So yeah, you do have AC and a speaker back here, which is nice. And some storage, but yeah, it's not made for adults. It is more of an emergency third row. But yeah, it's just nice to have. If you need it occasionally, good to have. With that being said, let's talk about the trunk. Hey there. So this is pretty tight behind the third row. Let me just get out of here without falling somehow. Elegant. Yeah, so behind the third row, you don't have much space. It's realistically, it's either third row or space. I mean, okay, you can get groceries, but whatever. Anyhow, let's put these down electronically. They can go up and down electronically, which is nice, and then we can just extend our little cover here and protect the carpet. So now we have quite a bit of space actually back here. It's really nice. It's really nice. Plenty of space. We have grocery bag hangers on both sides. Good job, Genesis. And yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good space. But of course, if you want to have the full 84 cubic feet of space, just put down the second row, and now you can load in whatever you need. And thanks to the 40-20-40 split, you can put down the middle if you have any long items without having to compromise and removing a seat on the sides. So this is really nice. Of course, to get the second row, you have to go around, but the third row, like I said, pops up electronically. Really good. But like I said, it's a midsize SUV. Third rows and those are always like very compromised, very compromised. Anyhow, let's go driving. Okay, now on the road here in the 2022 Genesis GV80, and as always, we shall start off with an acceleration run, a launch, so they say. So let's put it into sport. Traction control off. There we go. Start, stop. Just got to deactivate here for a second. Brake torque 2200. Let's go. Yeah. It's got a bit of push. Certainly's got a bit of push. And there we go. And let's brake her back down. We have a twin turbo 3.5 liter V6 producing 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque, which is really good. We got plenty of power. I mean, you just get, at some point, admittedly, as an automotive journalist, you get a little, you know, like used to speed. But this was very quick. 5.3 seconds roughly to 100 kilometers an hour, according to Car Driver, so roughly 60 miles an hour. So yeah, you got all the power you need. You got all the power you need. And that's, I think, all we need to talk about in terms of engine. That is sent to all four wheels, all-wheel drive in this GV80 through an 8-speed automatic, which does a fantastic job because it is smooth, it is refined, and pretty much always does what you want it to do. Of course, if you'd like to, you do have paddles, so 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So it reacts pretty quickly as well, as you can see. And also, the audio is pumped in sport mode, and you can customize that however much you'd like. So generally, I'm very happy with how this drives. What I, for the first time, did though, is drive a little more in eco mode than I usually do. Normally I don't bother with eco modes because in pretty much every single car you put it into eco and all it does is basically make your accelerator, your gas pedal, just very spongy, and it just kind of doesn't react to what you're doing, and it's just kind of like, ugh, not like a pleasure to drive. But in this GV80, the regular mode is, in my opinion, just a little too aggressive in terms of like shifting, so it holds gears a little longer than I would like, which makes the GV80 not the most fuel efficient. So that's why I was in eco, which gives it a pretty good response in terms of what I'm doing, but just a little more conservative on the gas. But we do have our acceleration test, but well, transmission reaction test, 50 kilometers an hour, flooring it in normal mode. As you can see, very good reaction. It picks up with plenty of speed and goes wherever you need it to go. So yeah, so let's put it actually into eco, which I, like I said, have been driving in the last few days quite a bit. It also helps that it has kind of like the most three-dimensional gauge cluster. You can customize it by yourself, but I guess. And this just gives me a bit more smoothness that I'm looking for. But really, the first time I've been in a car where like all modes were like actually useful. So good job for making the eco mode not just like a spongy mess, Genesis. Anyhow, that is all we need to talk about in terms of engine and drivetrain. It is very good. Let's talk a little more about suspension. And as always, we do that by turning left, well, almost always, onto this road, which as always is horrible. So let's see how the GV80 copes with this roughness. And I can say very, very well. I mean, you can see how terrible this road is, but it does cope very well. The suspension is nicely set up. It's one of the most comfy vehicles I have been in. Even considering this doesn't have like air ride or anything, it's actually really impressive how well the GV80 rides. And it's just very comfy. And in addition, NVH, the noise, vibration, and harshness, are overall really good. So it is nice and quiet in here, which makes this a combination of the well set up suspension plus low noise floor. Means it is very comfy, especially if you drive it at night. It becomes like almost silent. The engine, unless you floor it, is very unobtrusive, very, very quiet. It doesn't really need you to rev it out. Like the GLE 350 we've had, for example, because we had the 2-liter 4-cylinder in there, and the XC90 as well, even though it was a hybrid with the engine. Because they all put like 2 liters in those, they always had to work a lot more to get the power you need to move a mid-size SUV. So you always kind of hurt them, and you hurt the roughness, and it wasn't quite as nice. Well, this twin-turbo V6 is just a lot quieter in normal operations because it doesn't need to work as hard to give you the power that you need. So no, it is very nice. Like, honestly, this is one of the most comfy cruisers I've had this year. But, well, let's get into sport, because we want to test the handling of this Genesis GV80. And I didn't downshift that quite as much as I wanted to there, but what it does in terms of handling, it's actually pretty good. It's a mid-size SUV, so there's not too much you can do, but because of course we got the engine set up in a longitudinal way, so we send power to the rear first, then to the front. If you push it, it'll start rotating a little bit, but in a very controllable manner. So it drives fine. It's really as good as I need a mid-size SUV to drive. Okay, but that brings us to the last point, which is tech. And I've already talked a little bit about the cameras we have, right? So cameras, when we put on any of the signals, it'll give us the blind spot monitor, which is, I love this feature. Then we have, of course, all the assist systems you kind of want to have. Emergency braking, we have adaptive cruise control, we have lane centering, active lane centering, and it's the same system you find in Hyundai and Kias, which is a very, very good system. I do like it a lot. It does work pretty much any street, and you can enable it in any street. So even if you're in the city and something's going on, you can put it on, and you have a little bit more safety. Of course, it's not a perfect system. It's not an autonomous system. You have to stay in control, and as soon as lines disappear, it'll get confused. But it's just a nice extra safety, and because it isn't coupled to adaptive cruise control, you can pretty much use it all the time. And lastly, the Lexicon system we have in here, the speaker system, is actually pretty good as well. And once again, this kind of ties back into the low noise floor we've talked about, so it's just a very enjoyable and relaxing vehicle to drive. And I do drive slower than the speed limit when nobody's behind me. So there you go. Good. It's a very comfy cruiser. This is very nice. Let's send it off to the final thoughts and see if this Genesis GV80 is worth the money they want for it, if you're better off with one of the many competitors out on the market. Okay, final thoughts on the 2022 Genesis GV80 Prestige with the third row. And I, as you probably guessed from the review, really like this one. Just like I really like the GV70, the GV80 is an amazing product. It looks good, the interior is very nice, it drives nicely, you have really good tech integration. It is just a good, complete package. In terms of negatives, like I said, the fuel economy isn't the best, and the third row, of course, it's a mid-size SUV. They're never gonna even be close to what you can get in a full-size SUV. And depending on what kind of buyer you are, you will definitely notice that Genesis just has less brand recognition and reputation than the likes of Mercedes or BMW. But speaking of the likes of Mercedes, this brand reputation is kind of a shame because, well, it just takes time. It's not like Genesis doesn't have a bad one, just for clarification, it just takes time because a lot of people don't know about it. But looking at the GLE we've tested, which admittedly was $79,000, but that was without a third row and with way less features and way less power and all that. Similarly spec, you're looking at almost 100 grand on that GLE. The GV80 blows it out of the water. It's not a competition. It is not even close. It is just that the GV80 is that good. The XC90 we've had was a very good vehicle. Similarly spec'd, the price will be about the same, but I would still pick the GV80 because I like the engine more. The XC90, like we talked about, had this buzzy little 2-liter, which just kind of ruined a bit of the refinement that it had. Otherwise, great vehicle though. But what's the price? I have talked around it and really didn't mention it. So, as spec, top spec GV80 comes in at $88,626.70. Don't forget those cents. Canadian, US dollar price, of course, is always directly converted on your screen. And that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a mid-size SUV, and it's a lot of money for a Genesis. But looking at the prices other mid-size SUVs go for, luxury mid-size SUVs, I think it's perfectly in line. And considering what the GV80 gets you, I have no objections whatsoever. Is it a bargain? Of course not. It is not. Genesis doesn't need to do that anymore. But it is a damn good vehicle, and if you buy it, you will be absolutely delighted with it, I am sure. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. That concludes our review for today. And like I said, if you liked it, please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more videos that come into your inbox every single week. If you enjoyed the GV80 review, we do have 3 more POV test drives about it, where we kind of test it with camera on my forehead, so you can actually see how it is to drive out of your perspective. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye. No. Guys, shut up. Thank you.